We've all seen these type of YouTube comments. As a black person working in a very competitive profession, these training sessions are hilarious and cause more harm than good regarding race relations. As a black man, thank you, sir, for speaking common freaking sense. Thank God we've some semblance of hope that this stupidity won't last forever.
As a black woman, this is shocking. This is blatant racism. I can honestly count on one hand the number of racist incidents I have faced. The truth is that most people are decent, regardless of ethnicity.
By now, I'm sure you've noticed the common thread tying all these comments together. And it was always crazy to me to see these people, first feel the need to identify themselves as black and then go on to, trivialize or denigrate, anything having to do with black people. Now, I realize a lot of these comments are made by white trolls, I get that. But some of these are actually black people. And I can't help but wonder, what do you get out of this? As a black person, black people ain't shit. Like, what does that profit you? And we can tell the lie that these comments offer some suggestions, to help the black community. But it's clear that they don't. They're just basically self-serving, but what are we self-serving here? Neely Fuller said, if you don't understand white supremacy and racism, everything that you do understand will only confuse you. And to get understanding, I think what we need to do is have a quick history lesson about white. What is white? Where did white come from? Now, if you know a little bit of history, you'll know that white people didn't always call themselves white people. They were German, French, whatever. They weren't white. They didn't go around calling themselves white people. This all changed when the Portuguese decided they wanted to create a race-based slavery system. Now, people always try to do the argument, slavery has always existed. No, not based on race. That was a uniquely European thing. Because Europeans are the ones who decided people were different races. And the end goal of this was to basically tell the populace that everyone who looked, similar, the white people, wherever you're from, you're white, you were superior to black people, the darker shade of people. And basically that meant that you had the natural and divine right to rule over them, and they were not even full human beings. Now, this is the origin of the ideology and the culture of whiteness. Now, I know that's going to make a lot of people mad, but as you guys like to say, facts don't care about your feelings. Now, this system of white, supremacy, this lie was basically, it was the foundation of the slave trade, the foundation of American society. That's why they could, basically write a constitution saying all men are created equal while they have slaves out in the yard. They didn't see a problem with it because according to their ideology of whiteness, black people weren't full human beings. White primacy is something that has been taught and indoctrinated into American society. That's the idea that whites are first, blacks are last. It's instrumental to their, you have to, when you believe a lie as your ideology, you have to constantly reaffirm that lie to yourself. Now you might be asking, what does all this have to do with the soft shoe crew that you saw at the beginning of the video? Well, unfortunately, there's a lot of black people who have wholeheartedly embraced and accepted the idea that white people are superior to black people. So what they do is they, align themselves with what they see as white culture. But the thing is that we have already established you can't align yourself with white culture without hating black people. And you can't do that because white culture was literally only created to justify enslaving black people for profit. Now you might say, well, they're black, they're hating themselves. Yes, they are. Internalized racism and self-hate is a thing. And it's definitely going to be a thing in a society where you're born and raised and basically taught from day one that you are inferior to white people. Constantly bombarded with the white media that basically says black people are little more than mindless animals. I mean, you're gonna internalize some of that. Even pro black people, you have some internalized racism. You can't help it because you're in, you know, if you're raised in this country, you've got some of it. Now you might not let it lead your decision making process, but it's there, and we don't want to admit it, but it is. But we have to realize it's there by design, because that's how white supremacy maintains power. It has to, you know, get into the mind of the oppressed, you know, so that the oppressed ends up oppressing themselves. As we can see, this performative, you know, internalized racism and self-hatred manifests itself as, you know, thanks for saying something racist, and racism isn't real. White people ain't did nothing to nobody. Which is ironic considering we just, you know, went through how the term white was literally created just to do something to somebody. You know, that somebody being black people, and that something, you know, being the biggest human rights violation in human history. But when you're filled with self-hate, you know, none of that matters. The only thing that matters to you is getting a pat on the head from the dominant society, is to behave in a manner that, you know, exemplifies what they think is white core values, which is racism. And the thing is, they know it is. They know what they're doing is racism. But the thing is, all they want is for some white person to say, you're not like those other Negroes. That's like honey to them, like honey on their lips. And you know this because they always have to say they're black. They can't just agree with whatever's going on. They always have to make sure that you know that they're black. Which is irony even more, because they're using the credibility of being black to denigrate black people. Black people are their own worst enemies. They're the reason they can't come up. As if, you know, anything a black person did created or maintained systemic racism. You know, you still got people right now getting, you know, sued for redlining. Is that black people's fault? But, you know, truth and facts don't really have any place in an ideology that's a lie, because the only thing that supports a lie is more lies. And that's why they believe all the lies. See, the black culture that they're trying to escape, it's not black culture. It's what white society has said black culture is. Nothing but crime, drugs, and, you know, all those things that don't exist in the white community. And the craziest thing is when you see a video or something where it's legitimately undeniable racism and a black person is calling it as such, you'll still have a black person that comes out of left field and starts telling them it's not that serious, it's not that deep, blah, blah, blah. As if the mere semblance of a black person standing up for their dignity is, you know, is just beyond the pale. Because for white supremacy, it's a threat, and these bootlicks, they see that. So what they want to do is they want to fall into that role of trying to mitigate that threat for massa, and they're telling these other black people, you shouldn't have no pride in yourself. We ain't nothing but niggas. You should be thanking massa for all these nice things he does for us. Thank you, sir. Thank you for calling me a nigga. And people like Candace Owens, you know, these, you know, big right-wing black people, yeah, they're getting paid, but you people on YouTube ain't. I don't understand. Unless there's some secret pay system that I'm unaware of, maybe I need to start commenting as a black person. And even Candace Owens got shown the door. Actually, well, she ended up throwing herself out the door, which is white supremacy's plan from the get-go, make the situation so untenable for their bootlicks that they throw themselves out the door, which is what happened. But I guess, you know, when your self-esteem is so low and it's basically at the bottom, you know, a like and a comment from a racist person who would look you in your eye and tell you not a human being, you know, that's, you know, if getting a like from them that's all you really want in life, huh? And we can go into their background and history and say, you know, they were rejected by black people. And a lot of times, you know why you was rejected? Because you was a nerd. It had nothing to do with what you thought was black culture, or you didn't know the latest rap song. No, you were just a uninteresting, boring nerd that even white people didn't like. And that's what a lot of y'all don't want to admit. And they learn from white supremacy to blame black people for everything. It's black people's fault that I wasn't accepted. No, you was just a loser, bro. And nobody liked you, white, black, or otherwise. But black people are America's scapegoat, always have been. That's the way this whole country is set up. So they're going to run to it. That's why other minorities do it. That's why, you know, black immigrants do it, because black Americans are American society designated scapegoats. We've always been that. And I guess the payoff that they really want is just, you know, the fact that they can tell themselves that they profess their allegiance to white people or white culture in front of white people. Whatever that means. But just like my last video and Candace Owens and countless examples of bootlicking never paying off, it never pays off. But the way they say it, if they can just be seen as not like the rest of them Negroes for even but a second, it's all worth it. The cognitive dissonance, the self-hate and shame, they don't care. Quick shout out to Everia Games. Check out his content. Thank you for the support.